When the trailers for Title Update 4 dropped and Gogmazios was revealed, my hype was through the roof. Gog is one of my favorite large-scale fights in the series, and the idea of seeing him recreated at a modern Monster Hunter game with updated visuals, new mechanics and improved animations was incredibly exciting. His model alone already looked fantastic in the trailer, so visually, Capcom had already nailed his render. All that was left was to see how his fights would work and how it would be reimagined. I was hoping he would get an Amatsu level upgrade, but alas. While waiting for Gogmazios to arrive in Monster Hunter Wilds, I went back and forth in Monster Hunter for Ultimate, and it only reinforced why that encounter was so special. Despite being a massive flying siege-style monster with siege weapons and mechanics, Gog never felt overtly scripted. And even if the siege weaponry was available to assist the player, it was always optional. This is what made GOG stand out in 4U. It's a large-scale, siege-like monster in the series that didn't feel rigid or on rails, even with siege mechanics in play. When you compare him to the Morans, the Gaorens, or even the Lao Shanlong, you can see that you can fight Gogmazios head-to-head, and he would attack you as well. And his moveset was limited, but it was far more interesting unlike old-gen Fatalis, who had a similar setup as Gogmazios but with a way less interesting moveset. Keep that in mind because that unscripted nature of the fights, while still having siege weapons at play, is exactly what is missing when we start looking at Gogmazios and Wilds. Gogmazios released on December 16th as the title of the 4 monster in Monster Hunter Wilds. I didn't get to fully fight him on release since I had to go to work, so my first experience was only a partial hunt. Even so, the initial encounter was fantastic. I made about halfway through the fight, and at that point I was genuinely happy and excited about what Capcom had done with the encounter. Gog's fight in Wilds is divided into 3 phases, and during the first attempt I reached phase 2. Phase 1 is almost an exact recreation of Gogmazios' original Phase 1 from Monster Hunter for Ultimate. He has the same paw slam, the same paw slide and drag, the same tail slam, the same tail whip, all the same moves, the same behavior. The only thing that he doesn't have is his standing upright laser attack. And yes, I think that's it. And his laser sweep on the ground. But outside those attacks, everything else is the same in phase 1. And while I do appreciate faithful recreations, I was hoping to see more changes to his physical attacks. I mean, he shares the same skeleton with Go and Shagara Magala, and those monsters got new moves in Wilds. That said, that isn't really a major issue. His moveset is still engaging in Wilds, though his 4U variation is just, in my opinion, better. Losing the elements of the 4U version may be a bummer, but it doesn't hurt the phase 1 fight. Phase 2 begins when Gog starts sweeping the ground with his laser, melting the structures blocking the platform where Fabius and Nadia are positioned. This allows the player to climb up and continue the fight there. At the same time, Gog melts the floor below, preventing further combat on the ground and forcing the encounter onto the platform. On the platform, however, Gog's moveset becomes extremely limited. In fact, I think he only has like 2 attacks, a linear, laser and a paw slam. And this phase also introduces the objective of breaking the weapon mounted on Gog's back. This time, it's a dragon energy laser cannon instead of a dragonator. To use it, the players must attach wires to charge the weapon until it can be fired, which almost guarantees a transition into phase 3. And there's a dragonator style siege weapon where you can pull the lever and attack Gog with on that phase. While phase 1 holds up extremely well in my opinion, phase 2 quickly loses appeal on repeated hunts. After about the third run, the limited move variety and heavy scripting becomes hard to ignore. And what's worse about this is that in Monster Hunter for Ultimate, phase 2 and phase 1 of Wild's Gog was basically his movement kit in phase 1. without the scripted transition into phase 2, which is kind of disappointing because GOG could do everything that GOG does in phase 1 and phase 2 naturally without having to need a phase transition or some game breaking scene. It's just very tragic. Phase 3 is just the most controversial part of GOG's fight. This is where he receives the most changes and the fight somehow becomes more interesting and more boring at the same fucking time. The transition into the phase is quite good. After phase 2, GOG takes flight and triggers a cinematic chase sequence where he fires lasers as you climb up to the top of Azuz. And when you reach the peak of Azuz, the moment is fantastic visually, and after the spectacle ends, the problems just start to show. During phase 3, GOG spends an excessive amount of goddamn time flying, completely out of reach. And unless you're playing a gunner weapon, the only practical way to interact with him is by pelting him with fucking slinger ammo. Like, who thought Slinger Hunter was the name of the game? Who designed this? Who designed that aspect of the fight? I don't understand. And if the flying was just a brief situational mechanic, this phase will still be salvageable. But no, the developers just intended for GOG to fly every fucking time. It's a problem. And as a result, a large portion of the fight is spent throwing rocks at GOG instead of actually fighting him with your weapon. When you do get him grounded, the fight is finally good. But unfortunately, the developers decided that he only stays on the ground for 3 seconds because yes, that's what we like. We like flying monsters. Holy shit. That is what we really love. Flying monsters that stay consistently in the air. Toku, that's such a genius design. But on top of that, the design even clashes badly with what phase 3 is supposed to represent. In this phase, GOG is flying a lot and he's at his most chaotic, constantly dropping explosive oil. And then after making him fight and you trying to shoot him out of the air, him dropping explosive oil means that the oil is on the floor, your camera is looking up at him in the sky, and then you can't even tell what's going on the floor because you're trying to hit the goddamn thing. And somebody designed this and said it was good. They put this out as a title update and said this was a good idea. They put this, oh my goodness, I hate this fight. Another issue, however, is GOG Ultimate Attack. Oh, great. So, what is wrong with GOG's Ultimate Attack? Phase 3 introduces a GPS check. Lovely. What we all wanted. After Omega, after Alatrion, after Behemoth, after Fatalis, we needed more DPS checks. What does the DPS check do? You guessed it. If you miss the DPS check, it results in an arena wiping nuke. I mean, who designed? Like, why does the mainline team like this design choice? They have done this time and time again. I do not understand why they do this. Alatrion has a nuke, Fatalis has a nuke, GOG has a nuke, Safijiva has a nuke, Omega has a nuke, Behemoth has a nuke, and they all resolve it the same way. It's only Alatrion, and even if the same way you resolve it is kind of similar, you either have to out heal it or you hide behind a wall. That is it. This time, instead of a wall, it's a shield. Instead of a rock, it's a shield. That's it. That's the only difference. It's the same attack as Omega. It's the same attack as Behemoth. It's the same attack as Fatalis. It's the same attack as Safijiva. I do not understand why the mainline team likes this kind of design. They don't have any other creative designs again. They don't have any other movesets that they could do. They always, for every time they want to design a difficult monster, they fall back on this design choice. DPS check into nuke. DPS check into nuke. Maybe you have a DPS check where the monster goes into a frenzy instead of having a nuke. I do not understand why the mainline team loves arena wiping nukes. It is dumb. It has never been a good design choice, and they still fall back on it every single time, and people eat it up. They love it. I don't know why, but it is fine. It's an exhausting design choice for me, and it's one that the mainline team seems determined to keep repeating. And honestly, I don't think they will stop here. In the next game, the expansion, they're probably going to continue this rubbish. And what's even more disappointing is that in Sunbreak, they fixed this issue with ultimate attacks being reliant on DPS checks. Reason Shigaru's ultimate attack had you time and dodge his nuke. You don't have to hide behind a rock and you don't have to beat a DPS check to avoid the nuke. You just have to escape and dodge it. Primordial Mazino, the same thing. Amatsu, the same thing. I do not understand why the mainline team likes this behemoth style nuke. It's getting on my fucking nerves. It needs to stop. GOG needs to be the goddamn last monster that has this kind of fucking design decision. It's getting annoying. For heck, fucking Jin Dahad has it. I even forgot to mention. Jin Dahad has the same 3 monsters in the same game use the same exact move. What the fuck is this? Who designs this? Who designs this thing? Who designs it? It's uncreative, it's shit, and I blame Behemoth because it's because of Behemoth that we have this big, flashy, completely predictable ass nuke, and it's just tiresome, and it got put on GOG. And the worst part is GOG's ultimate back in the older games was just better in general. It was just better. I don't understand how they made his ultimate even worse. How did they do that? We went from crazy laser beam to arena wiping nuke once again. Oh my goodness, the mainline team needs to stop this. It's getting frustrating. Gogmazios is a very solid fight the first time you play through it, but after that initial playthrough, the cracks become very apparent. Phase 3 is especially tedious, and Phase 2 is honestly both boring and overtly time consuming. What starts off as a cinematic experience quickly turns into a slog on repeat hunts. Several changes will be needed to make this fight work better in G rank. Similar to how all modern now skips the Ibushi phase in G rank, GOG's encounter in WoW should skip phase 1 and 2 entirely. By that point, the players have already experienced those sections enough, and trimming them will greatly improve the fight pacing. In addition, GOG's flight behavior needs to be heavily reduced. Ideally, it should be limited to no more than 2 flight sequences in my opinion. As it stands, GOG flies far too often and stays airborne for far too long. Being forced to rely on the slinger to knock him down isn't engaging and has never been, so making it a central mechanic only makes the fight more exhausting. And while the 2 falling rocks in the arena can help bring him down, he often takes off again almost immediately, which further drags out the encounter. And it's quite sad because the fight could be great. All the pieces are there. His ground fight in phase 3 is quite good. He gets some new laser attacks which are quite phenomenal, like the turnaround laser beam or the side to side laser beam that he does, which is absolutely cool. But to be honest, GOG in Wilds is just the pure definition of he had potential man. That's what GOG is at the moment. Maybe G-Rank can fix him, maybe he can't, but I hope that it can. But as of now, compared to the previous title updates final super bosses, he's probably the worst one out of all of them. Amatsu, All Mother, Alatrion, Fatalis, Primordial are just better title update endings than GOG, and it's just sad. He only really beats Behemoth, and because Behemoth is just shit, that's just it. Nothing is as shit as Behemoth. And what makes this worse is that Tokuda ties the entire hunt to a weapon grind meant to keep the players engaged, which means Capcom clearly expected the fights to be replayed repeatedly. That expectation only highlights the fight pacing and mechanical issues. And ultimately, this encounter reflects Tokuda's broader design priorities in Monster Hunter: presentation over fucking functionality, the philosophy that is especially evident in both World and Wilds, where spectacle and cinematic flair often takes precedence over replayability and mechanical depth. So Gogmazios is visually impressive and thematically strong, but as a hunt designed for repetition, it falls extremely short. And I hope he does better. Thank you.